Shit, we started. That's a legit missed the cue there. And it makes sense that we missed the cue there. We just had our longest production meeting ever, almost basically an entire episode we should have recorded there. We got into, a lot of different family things, and we started a little early on our game rants, our general NFL rants. I didn't bring up some of the fans of the show rants, and ravings. A lot of ravings. A lot of positive feedback this week. Some direct feedback. Encourage everybody to, I actually had one guy's an iTunes guy, and I don't even know how to keep track of who's listening on iTunes. We got Spotify, of course, and then kind of mainly go on YouTube because that one's the most transparent for us to kind of know what's going on. But we encourage you to send episodes, send out shorts to people. I mean, I'd say a lot of people probably think we're a bunch of idiots. Did have some people that listen to a number of, Packer podcasts and stuff. And at the very least, we're break even with most of them and better than some. Now, we do have upcoming enhancements. We're interviewing a couple of video guys. Not sure they're going to work out. We had a guy offer to come on the show, which another thing reminded me to bring up a little family matter. We got some criticism from last week. We got a guy that, Rod Dillenberg did not like the Alloway youth football accusations that he would just chuck it up willy-nilly and turn the ball over. He was like, I might have to come on the show. And I was like, Rod, you can't even log on to YouTube to leave a comment. You're just like an anonymous random fan. Like, I say, mix it up in the comments. Let us know if you're pissed off. But he's like, I'd have to log in. I don't even know how to log in to leave a comment.
Well, here's the deal. At least I'm glad I hit a nerve. I'm glad I hit a nerve of those youth coaches. And I'm essentially an expert on that league. I have watched 22 minutes of a league game. So I'm more or less a matter expert. So whatever Rod likes to say, I'm probably smarter than him in that whole situation. I don't care if he's coaching for 14 years. I'm right.
Well, and I try not to get into it with him a little bit, but I believe he was the defensive coach anyway. So what, how is it really a personal matter if we took a shot at the Alloway Bearcats offense or whatever the hell they were, Alloway Green, whatever the team names are. And what's he doing in Alloway anyway? Doesn't live over there.
Right.
That's besides the point.
Imposter.
We got a guy that wants to be the fact checker, and I didn't run this over in pre-production. We started off 4 years on Caleb Williams. I was sure that was wrong. And we kind of wandered our way around to 3 years. I think it's his second year, Urbs. It's just a second year. So we want to, for the concerned listeners that gave a shit of how long Caleb Williams is actually in the league, whatever. It's a couple years, and he showed us some things. Let's dive into it. Packers Bears Saturday night. It's an emotional time. First takeaway from Urbs.
Yeah, coming in, and I know now we're through our Monday here. It was a little raw on Sunday, certainly raw on Saturday night. But as the dust settles, Dilly, I'm going to be a little bit retrospective, and I probably was on the opposite side of this. I know I was on the opposite side of this as you were. You're more the calm, the glass is half full, if you will, of the two of us. And I wasn't devastated when it happened. I was trying to, recall. But as the dust settles, isn't this kind of where we were, like where we are, as far as the game? Like, it's probably the ending that we deserved, potentially. And what I say by that is, there's three huge errors that happened in the game. Three large errors. You fumble in the red zone, that's going to cost you, and it should have cost us. You have a third and forever, and a face mask is correctly called. It's going to cost you, and it should. You then blow another assignment. Number 25 is a blown assignment. That's going to cost you, and it should cost you. Now, at the end of the day, 1 for 5 in the red zone, you're not going to win a lot of games. You have 400 yards in offense with a backup quarterback, basically 3 quarters. I would call that a 3 quarters. It was halfway through the second quarter where Love got dead. I'm happy with that. So I think we were where we should have been. Why it was raw, Dilly, is that we had the game what I didn't mention is the failed catch on the onside kick. I mean, Mr. Dobbs, very sure-handed. One of the maybe arguably the second sure-handed guy. Maybe number 9 should have been in that position. And who knows? You don't know if he's going to make that catch or get that recovery or not. Those mistakes inevitably will cost you games, and so they should. Now, to lose that game, I don't want to ever lose a game to the Chicago Bears for a number of reasons, and we'll get into those reasons today, mostly the fans. But I do think that if you lose that game and still have the future in your control and are still in the playoff picture, at the end of the day, we're okay today. And I think that's probably a glass half full. There's other ways, and I'll probably get in that some of our rants today, and I do have a few rants that I want to get into, which includes the first bloody series of the game. I will save that and kind of toss it back across the pond here, if you will, over across the border to you. What's your take?
First off, good decision by us. I mean, hat tip to Audible Angle and the 2 primary contributors to Audible Angle, yourself and myself. There's a reason why you don't want to do an immediate reaction show. And I was kind of itching on Sunday, partially because the noon games were just kind of shit. So you're kind of sitting there thinking, well, let's hash this out. But you don't know you don't have all the information yet. So I'm glad that we wait and don't do instant reactions, because it is a more emotional show. The number one takeaway is exactly what you said. Even if, and we'll talk about other games, so don't worry, even if the Lions win, it's still kind of the same thing. We still controlled our own destiny. You had to win 2 then. Now we got to win 1, or they got to lose 1, whatever. But it's, at the end of the day, you have to just take a moment and reassess. There's some real bright spots, and Malik Willis is obviously one of them. It's going to be hard times, Jack, when you don't have that kind of... I didn't feel concern at all when he came in, because every time he's come in, he's done well. And part of that is the coach knows how to work with him, and he's showed that last year, started games last year. I wasn't that worried, and a tiny bit of me, just the Packer fan in you, kind of gets excited, because the defense is not prepared for it. Now, do I believe some people get a little carried away with Malik Willis? Obviously, he'll have a tougher time the more teams have to prepare for him. And the 2 teams that he won in his starts, beat in his starts last year, were not great football teams. So he has a lot to prove. But as far as a steady backup, that's great. Moving the ball is great. Red zone stuff, we're going to disagree probably some on the red zone stuff. It's definitely disappointing to go 1-5. I start to get angry with people that after one, and this is Packer fans, they have an expectation that it's going to be 100% success rate somehow. And by success, I mean touchdown. People, you're halfway through the third quarter. It's like, well, it should be 28-10. If everybody, Bears should have had one on their fucking weirdo 4th down play. We should have had 3. It's like, okay, yeah. And every game, I mean, the Philadelphia game should have been the 45-48 best barn burner of all time. All the teams did was hold the ball in their opponent's end of the field. And it just, I think, especially with a day or two, you feel a little better. A lot of concerns. If I want to, would you want to go into that first 4th down?
I do, and I appreciate the time, because here's the deal, man. we God damn it. Last episode I talked about momentum. And obviously, if Matt LaFleur is listening, which he has told us he is, we've had phone conversations, documented conversations that said, I'm a listener. I'm a believer in you too. Dillenberg, Urban. Thank you for covering the teams so in-depthly. And thank you for being exactly correct on all your facts. I mean, with no errors. Zero errors. And in those that fact check, maybe we make mistakes on purpose.
And maybe we're not experts on how many years Caleb Williams has been playing, but this isn't a Bears pro. If we do a Bears weekly episode somehow, which would be just tragic and self-defeating, I mean, yeah, we'll be experts on the Bears too.
Right,
but
thanks.
right now, we're experts.
So when you drive the ball down the field in a very hostile environment, which Soldier Field is, has been, and will be, when the green and gold visit the greater Chicago area, and you have a choice to get what essentially turned out to be a yard, and I will argue that it shouldn't have been a yard. It should have been like inches from where they are, but the NFL has been horseshit at ball spotting both sides all season long. And I don't understand where the linesmen are or why, or lines ladies, so that I can be inclusive here. But that the fact of the matter is, for momentum purposes only, and you felt it in that game, kick the fucking field goal or run a play that will get you 2 yards, which is like a tight end drag, or number 70 dragging across. Come on, do the right thing. And number one, kick the field goal. Number two, why are you throwing? I don't even know what you called that play. I don't know what you call it. It wasn't a back shoulder throw. It wasn't a fade. It was some horseshit call. Like, that's all. And I don't care if that was the fourth choice on it. Don't throw it. Like, run for it. Do something other than what you did, and that's on Love. But at the end of the day, kick the field goal. You're up 3-0. You have them on your toes. You obviously felt comfortable on the defensive side. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been going for the fourth fucking down in the first place. So you figured that you would hold them. Yes. To those pundits that will say they missed a fourth down and it was 0-0 anyway and you scored first anyhow. All right, congratulations. You're fucking right. You read the game as it was. But you're not a future teller, and neither is Matt LaFleur, and he should have kicked the fucking field goal, period.
I agree. I think they should have gone field goal. Now, obviously that sounds great retrospectively. You can say that too, but there's more to it than that. And I will levy a little concern with Matt LaFleur here, because I think part of the reason why they didn't run the ball right up the ass to get the first down is, our offensive line has not been a great run-blocking offensive line. The weakest part of our offensive line is the interior of the offensive line. So there's some obvious ones. You can't do much about that other than coach up the guys and hope they start playing better. However, the criticism lies in Jordan Love banged up his shoulders a couple weeks back. And Jordan Love he's not a small guy, he's not a slow guy, but he's a little slight frame. He's a little lanky. He's, you see videos, he has like his body's in weird spots sometimes. He's just kind of lanky, flexible guy. He's not a tush-push guy.
Correct.
And he had banged up shoulders. So you don't want to do that. You probably don't want to sneak Love. You had Kraft. He was handling it. We love the Kraft push. What do we call that? Spread the cheese? I don't know what we called it. We loved it. And that would have been a perfect play there. Don't have Kraft. The problem I have with LaFleur is you haven't had Kraft, obviously, for weeks. You haven't felt good about sneaking Jordan Love really ever. And if he has banged up things where you're like, we just can't afford to have this guy mosh pitting in there, and he's not especially well suited for mosh pitting, we should have had an answer. We should have a package. I mean, the tush push has been around for 3-4 years now, and a lot of teams do it well. The Steelers have Aaron Rodgers picking his nose, making fun of himself. And not only have they been successful with it, they ran other variations of it to success this week. But, and now, granted, I am, like you and everyone else, not clairvoyant, at least not in a football sense. We can talk about astral projection and other things some other episode. But as soon as Malik Willis was in the game, I actually started texting, we should do the Malik sneak. It should be the Malik sneak. You have Malik. You've had him on the roster this whole time. Is there a better option than the Malik sneak? And can, without doing misdirection with, guys coming around, a tight end around the backside, flip it, Malik, you can just do that all with him. And LaFleur, you're the coach. You know you have that guy. You know better than us. The Malik sneak should be a thing, should have been a thing.
It can be a thing. And people will question, well, wait a second. When Malik comes in, they know it's the tush push. Well, Jiminy Christmas, man. When the Eagles do the tush push, you know the tush push is coming, man. You know when the Bills are doing the tush push, it's coming. Whether it's an obvious answer. So in the Saints make a living out of it. They have 2 full-time quarterbacks. Well, at least 2 part-timers. You know what I mean? Like they do it every time. You know when the quarterback that got away from Green Bay and is now on the team at the Saints for the last 5 years, you know they're running some read option play. So if you and I love the Malik sneak. It should be grabbing. It should be grabbing. It's a movement. The Malik sneak, and I don't care. They should know it's coming. They can't beat it because we know when the ball is going to be snapped. That's the whole thing about the tush push, the Malik sneak. We can move quicker than you can react. It's why wide receivers get off the line better than the cornerbacks. Most of the cornerbacks is because you're moving first and they're reacting to it. Malik sneak is a great answer. I love the perspective. It's a great take. Should be coined and used as early as next week against the Ravens. Love it. And you heard it first here on Audible Angle.
That being said, going for it, if they went Malik sneak, then I'd say go for it. Or if we had done something throughout the last 6 weeks in short yardage that suggested we had an answer. You're right. I don't like the call of, basically, it was like race to the pylon, only our guy can catch it. That's a high leverage play. Now, dropping a tight end out for 1 yard, you're, again, not to make it the Rod Dillenberg episode, but he basically thinks that's an every play option is. And then I had to get into, well, have you seen our guy, 88?
He doesn't catch it.
Well, even if he catch it, he might have negative yak somehow. I asked if he was a hockey player. He looks like he would rather be on skates and cutting on ice. It's weird. And we had limited tight ends available, and then fewer tight ends were available. There were some personnel issues, and 3 points if you trust the defense. I go 3 there. That's an easy one. If we get into the Bears' perspective just slightly, what I would like, and we don't have to, I got a couple different things on Bears fans, and some of it bleeds into fans in general, so I'll save part of it. But could someone at least acknowledge you needed extreme luck circumstances? And you had them in the first game against Green Bay. You got the advantage of every call. The ball looks like it might have touched the ground, in the game in Lambeau a couple times. You can't really see it, but they call it, whatever, incomplete, not an interception or a fumble. And then you had the other Musgrave catch, whatever. So they had that all in Lambeau and still lost. And I just want to hear a Bears fan say, hey, man, it's a win. You take whatever win you can get. But they really think. And the indictment of the Bears fan is they've been down this road. generally speaking. Of course, there's a couple smart Bears, reasonable Bears fans. But Bears fan, you've been down this road. You know better than to think every single game we're going to give up a ton of yards and get a turnover here and there. The Packers have had some years like that. Like, the defense isn't very good, but we're getting turnovers. So are they good? No, they're not good. The defense is not good enough. Get a miraculous, as much as we all love whoever the fuck number 20 is catching a ball. There's a percentage, and I'll say not a high percent, maybe 20% of the time, whatever group of refs or New York is in charge of that game, the ball moved a little bit. And then it was, it was next foot up, next foot down, next foot out. I'm not saying that should be an incomplete pass, but just, you dodged what could have been a real ugly review there. Congratulations. And then you get the onside kick, which you feel bad for Dobbs because he's a likable guy. It bounced. He got a bounce, and I think he got caught between you're just grasping the rolling ball, and it hopped up, and it's like he was going to go hands quick. He switched to hands. And that's just, you get that bounce. What is it in the NFL? 1 out of 12 or 15 times?
8%.
Something like that.
8%.
8%. 1 out of 12. And hey, you got your 8%er, and then you get into, so you had to do all that. You get to overtime, and then, shit happens.
Yeah, and I agree with you on the Bears fans, and this is, we're going to rant here. Let's go a couple minutes and talk about it, right? Like, we both probably work with Bears fans. We may live with Bears fans. We may have friends that are fans. But here's just Bear Nation. Can we just be honest in the mirror, please, and say, hey, we stole that one. That just say that. And you know what? Packer Nation would say the same thing. Hey, you know what? We stole that one. We probably didn't deserve to win. And today, level heads will prevail 2 days after, full days after, because we're doing this about game time, and from Saturday. But I just need you to be realistic in your thoughts, please, like the rest of the nation. Bear Nation, please look at the next 2 weeks and be realistic. Be realistic of who you need to play and go through to complete your second seed, because we had this conversation before. This has happened 3 weeks ago, where you were telling us you were the best team in football and may get the 1 seed, and you're sitting at the 2 seed. Welcome. You're back there again. Let's act like we've been there before, Bears fans. Act like you've been there before and dropped very quickly, because at the end of the season, when it matters, Bears fan, you could be exactly where we are today, which is the 7 seed. And now you're playing in Lambeau. Most likely, the way this goes, and it's a coin toss now, because those games, I don't believe the next game against the 49ers, the final game against the Lions, which is going to be a doozy. I don't know where that game is, Dilly. Can you look up where that game is, that Lions-Bears game? But that's going to be a doozy, because let's be frank, if Lions win this week, which they most likely will, I don't know who they are, but they're a desperate team playing in desperate ways. That Lions team will be all hands at deck. You're going to have to play 4 downs, Bears, on defense every single play, because the gloves are out for the Lions, and they're going all in for their playoff lives. And by the way, at that point, Green Bay Packer Nation will be just fine, because we'll take care of the Lamar-less Ravens at home. And you're going to have a dogfight against the 49ers, who are battling for a 4 or a 5 seed, which they will be. And they're only getting healthier. I get it, Bear fan. You're going to tell me that you're missing a few people. Rome wasn't playing, and Luther Burden wasn't playing. But our list is longer. Our excuse list will be shorter. That's a game the Packers should have won. We gave you the 4 reasons they did not, most of which were self-inflicted. some of which may have been overlooked by our friends in black and white. But those are excuses that we don't need to make today or tomorrow. We'll get another chance.
And an addition for Bears fans. Now, maybe there's a Bear fan out there that has an obnoxious Packer fan friend. I mean, they exist to some degree. Not on Audible Angle. We won't even let those guys on the show. But there's, Green Bay, we had Hail Rodgers. We didn't go around suggesting that everything was great when we'd win on a last-second Hail Mary. You just say, you get the mantras. Win is a win. It's important. But, I mean, let's get real. You feel internally shaky about it. Because you saw teams, and they've had it all year. And again, I said it already, but the thing with Bears fans is that they've had this exact team before. They've referenced it during that game. The defense wasn't good, and old what's-his-face, can't think of his name right now, Peanut Tillman was on that team. Like, they'd get a turnover, punch a ball out every game. And they're the miraculous Bears, and they never go anywhere, so you don't think of it again. And they have by the way, Detroit has Minnesota this week in Minnesota. I don't even care if the Packers win to eliminate Detroit, if the Lions lose to eliminate Detroit themselves, if they eliminate themselves. We know firsthand, because take it from us, we've basically been in these positions the better part of 33 years, 30 some years. The Packers have been in the playoff hunt with a very few exceptions. So we understand Detroit Lions can roll into your home out of the playoffs and kick the shit out of you and love it. Like, they might, at this point, their season has been so disappointing, it could be their highlight of the year, is knocking out the Bears. And the only thing that could be better is if they could somehow knock both of us out at this point, which they can't, because we'd have to knock ourselves out. And the Bears, to some degree, if somehow they beat the Niners, who I don't believe that much in, so they have a chance. The Bears have to knock themselves out of winning the division as well. So, but believe me, if it gets to week 18, and we've already said it, we don't want to have to play at Minnesota in a must-win situation. And I just, you have to appreciate that. And maybe deep down inside, the Bears fan they do appreciate that a little bit more. And they're just being represented by fools on social media and fools that we know. I've been on record, and he's a big-time listener, big fan of the show with a couple Bears fans I know, generally reasonable. They like to stir the pot a little bit, especially after some fireball shots. But they kind of know. They've been through this a little bit. Before we move on to another version of ranting about the NFL in general, and as it relates to the Bears, let's step back a little bit, because I've been a Caleb Williams guy, and he has some special talents. However, amazingly, in a victory against the Packers, I feel like I've regressed on my Caleb Williams in his second year story arc. It's early still, so this can change. But is he athletically, he's different a little bit, but does he have more upside than the Jay Cutler Bears? Jay Cutler could chuck the rock and fling it around and make amazing throws that you can't ever forget. But the Bears, we're going deep. We're into the let's go to the reference section live, which is the cell phone, if I can do it quick enough. When did the Bears actually get into the game? They had 0 at halftime, and they had 3 points through 3 quarters. And yeah, he had two amazing, kind of amazing plays at the end where they got their touchdowns. But what the hell was going on the whole rest of the game? Can a Bears fan explain to me how they felt at the end of the third quarter?
Well, that's exactly my point. Can we just look in the mirror, Bear fan, and tell us exactly what we saw from your perspective? But don't sugarcoat it about how he's got this great upside. This is the second game in a row that he was subpar. And the team was. And here's why. Here's the only difference, Jim. The only difference between the Jay Cutler Bears and the Caleb Williams Bears is the play callers. I have more faith in Caleb Williams' play caller to put him in more successful situations and play calls than when Jay Cutler had his play caller. So that's the only difference. Is he athletic? Yeah, he is. But so is Marcus Mariota. So is every one of the quarterbacks. So is the poor schmuck, the first-year guy over down in the Titans. That dude is an athletic stud. Probably playing the wrong position. But his team sucks, and his play caller sucks. And he looks bad because he spends more time looking at the sky than he does trying to find a receiver. But my point is this: the quarterback in Chicago is going to be better long term because of the situations he's put in, not because of the situations he puts himself in. And here, let's be honest. We saw number 52 trying to chase him down. How many times Packer fans think, man, if that was Parsons, he would have been sacked? What could have been? And before we go on, and there's a lot of rants that we have to talk about on the NFL side today, and I want to get to them. But the one thing that I do want to mention, and it's worth mentioning because this is the truth. When the Packers are down what they were down, even in the game, Josh Jacobs didn't play the entire second half. Jordan Love didn't play this entire second half. We're down a defensive end. We're down a defensive tackle. We're down a starting safety. Maybe that's what we should have got. Maybe that's what it is. And I want to hear that from Bear Nation. I want to hear it from the Bear fan that says, you know what? We beat you at your subpar. Because here's the deal. We're only getting healthier now. I can't imagine that we're going to be worse off when we play whoever we play if we make the playoffs. We can't be worse off.
Yeah, you can't be less than one available tight end. I don't even know. I guess you could be down to 0, but it's unlikely that will be less than one available tight end. The biggest concern as a Packer fan about the Bears is they do have Ben Johnson, and he's got a little bit of a, the old snapperooski over the head. When their whole thing pretty much all year against every team is ramming it up the ass with running backs. Why did they get cute there? Ben Johnson does have out-cute himself potential, and it's hard to discern exactly how much of it was him and how much of it was Dan Campbell when they're in Detroit. That's about the only downside right now that I can think of a Ben Johnson coach team is he going to out-cute himself in a big spot one too many times? I guess we won't find that out. When we get into, a slight segue, now this is still Packers-Bears game, but there's one, I hesitate to even bring it up. It's a known, we'll say it's a national media guy. A lot of listeners would know, but I'm not saying who it is because it was it wasn't in a public forum that he was making these comments. 3 plays in, he's like, it's fucking rigged. This ain't happening for the Bears. It's rigged. It's like, face reality a little bit. The guy went diving crowd surfing on the kickoff, and then the fumble happened 20 seconds after forward progress was stopped. And then they had the same guy who got one later, which I'm going to segue into, roughing the passer, very clear. And then I think they blew the whistle, but that one was easily hearing the whistles on a Musgrave fumble. And it's 3 plays, rigged, it's over, it's all over. Which, shame on anyone for just going with with what I just don't think it's rigged. I think it's incompetence. And we can touch more on general NFL incompetence, but then the second, roughing the passer. I mean, folks, you've had 10 years to bitch and complain about how soft, and that, by the way, that wasn't, by the way the rule, you can not like the rules, but that was direct helmet to helmet on a quarterback. It is. It just is. And, you get into all these, I'll say social media, but whether it's a text change or with buddies or whatever, it's, there's a lot of tough guy talk and all that. That's like, guys, then maybe the NFL isn't for you. If you can't handle roughing the passer calls in this day and age, it's been a long time. And that isn't one. If that's one you're going to hang your hat on, like, that's just good football. That's a good hit. Guys, maybe in your version of football that you wish was still out there, but it does, Chuck Cecil had great hits. And frankly, at the time, it seemed pretty cool, but I don't want players out there headhunting. You want to see the best players play, and there's a trade-off for that. So my ask is, and it's not just Bears fans, I'll put this one on just general fans, like, get a fucking clue or just give up. Like, helmet to helmet's going to get called.
And so it should. And this kind of gets to our bigger picture. That was an egregious play. Like that stepped over the line of aggressive, in the moment, I'm a big guy, it's a fast game, it happened quickly, I didn't have time to react. That was targeting by the exact letter of the law to one of the most important players, if not the most important player for the Packers. That, like, I don't know the rule, and I'd like some transparency from the NFL. I want somebody who's in charge of the rules to send a tweet, to send a letter to the league, send a letter to Rob Demovsky. Shout out to one of the Green Bay ESPN reporters on the beat. But send something out that says what the rule is. Why is that guy still playing the rest of that game? Why? Because I'll tell you, right, if that kid was playing on Saturdays, he's no longer playing the rest of that game, and he's not playing the first 2 quarters of the next game. And that's an ejection probably without even reviewing it. Like you don't see that type of play in the game. That has been removed since our defensive end Harris, where he literally spiked McMahon. Like, he picked him up and spiked him on his head. Like, that play doesn't exist. That play has been outlawed for the last 10 years after our defensive end was body slamming quarterbacks.
Charles Martin, yeah.
Yeah.
And part of the point is they're also trying to protect the defensive player from doing that. And that's the distinction. You can say Love was he went down a little bit, because he did. His shoulders dropped a good 2 inches. But here's what they're trying to eliminate from the game. Guy coming in like this. That's all you saw. He's launching, it's head forward, crown of helmet as the attacking piece of the player. That's what they're trying to get rid of. Your point about what's he doing in the game, and you compared it to college football Saturday and Maction on Wednesday. Football's every day now. But you're comparing it to that, which I will say in college, they get a little heavy-handed with it sometimes. It's like this guy's face mask brushes past the other guy's face mask. But the whole point is they're trying to completely remove that from the game. The NFL could have a version of that that's a little tighter, a little quicker on review. But here's the silly thing. In the NFL, we have a guy who, by the way, again, that's his second roughing the quarterback. And the first one was a clear driving into the ground. It wasn't the latest hit of all time, but it's under the rules of the NFL. It was roughing the passer. This guy gets a second with a clear crown football play. It's 2 first downs. Who gives a shit? Jaden Reed on a touchdown to Romeo Dobbs, he turns and goes like this to the sideline for 2 seconds. That's also 15 yards and his first warning for ejection from the game. So the NFL prioritizes the inability to look at another player and go like this from 25 yards away, by the way. He's just kind of turned backwards on the field. Do you recall that play? Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a hey, one more of those, you're out of the game. This guy, he could have done 3 more roughing the passers and not. I don't think he would have gotten a warning. He might get a fine a week later or something, but it's just a weird set of priorities when you compare those 2 sets of plays where a guy taunting from 30 yards away gets an unsportsman-like conduct warning where if he did it again, he's ejected from the game.
I know neither
he's
of us
disqualified.
Yeah, neither one of us were at the game, but I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that announced on the play on Love. I mean, I would guess if we were capable of dealing with Bear fan on this call, on this show, I would hope that Bear fan would say, yeah, you're right. I mean, that's probably that. But I'm guessing, to be honest, 99.9% of Bear fans would be like, that's just part of the game. Part of the game. You got to deal with it. It's what
Tough
happens.
Guy town.
Yep, that's what happens. Grab me another slice of za. Let's do it. Come on, let's go.
Deep dish. Yeah, it's just one of those where, you can remove it from the game, and yeah, it's a little weird in the NFL. I think if a guy was trying to articulate a comeback, it's like, well, he was outside the pocket and became a runner and stuff. It's gets on all that weird stuff that the NFL writes itself into corners for. But I'll tell you what, he roughing the passer and late hits and head-to-heads on a defenseless receiver. We'll have to check on that one. I'm almost positive, even if they do give a warning about ejection, because it's I think a personal fault. Like, to consider those 2 things the same thing, taunting from 25 yards. Like, what are they afraid of? Call a penalty like that. The guy on the sideline can't contain himself and he's going to run onto the field and start a brawl. Like, come on, guys, loosen up on taunting a little bit, especially 30 yards away in no contact.
Yeah, I think what that comes down to, and this is part of the storyline here, right? Is one of those flags was thrown by one official, the other flag was thrown by a different official. So there's some subjectivity. So what you have is one official that threw that flag is like, that's ridiculous. That's out of the game. That's not something you can do. And then the other official who did what on Love was, I mean, these are a bunch of tough guys. It's a tough guy sport. It's an obvious penalty because I'm going to take 30 seconds to throw the bloody flag when our guy is there with his braying outside of his ear. Right? Yeah, that probably should have been called. I probably could have thrown that flag a little bit tougher. And if you remember that official, he kind of just kind of underhanded it over there. Like, whoop, missed that one because it was on the quarterback. So let's just get her in there somehow. Like, so I think what you're seeing there is there's an inconsistency within the same crew. So they're not on the same page, which is a problem for the league. And that's a league-wide issue because even, sometimes you see interference calls being called by the umpire who's behind the play, and all of a sudden he's like, yeah, that should be a pass interference. Or like even the PI, the offensive pass interference at the Lions game, 1,000, 1,000 flags everywhere, like everywhere. And then when are we blowing the whistle? I don't know. I don't want to blow the whistle because I don't want to be that guy.
Oh yeah. Don't get me started on what is or is not forward progress. That's a tush push thing. It's just hit or miss. Blow the whistle and stop the play. his forward progress, not only was it stopped, he never had it stopped when he caught the ball. He caught St. Brown caught the ball after a pretty obvious offensive pass interference, but he caught the ball and short of the goal line and got pushed back to the 5 or 6, and then did a weird lateral. And then, we still haven't stopped the play, and you guarantee, and I don't give a shit about what happens in that game. I don't have a personal stake in it, but for a fact, if they would have, a Pittsburgh defender took one more step, and I guess let's flush the Bears game and move on to the rest of the league on Saturday and Sunday. But if it went a half step further and one of our friends from the Pittsburgh Steelers then took Amon-Ra to the ground or spiked him, it would have been a flag for that.
Correct.
Absolutely. And it happens a lot. Like, just blow it dead in a reasonable amount of time, and you'd save yourself a lot of trouble. The other one in that game towards the end, and whether or not it is truly interference on Jamison Williams' play, kind of leading up to on that Lions last drive. I mean, under what circumstance does a pass get broken up? And the guy got there a little early. A play you see a lot not called. But under what circumstance does Jamison Williams need to stand up, go like this to the crowd, get disappointed, and then get resurrected because 1.5 seconds later you see the flags fly in? Like, what are they doing? What the late calls?
I agree, Dilly. I think that those late calls are kind of an overwhelming part of. I don't think, and I think Puka Nacua was one that said that it had just recently accused the referees as wanting attention. And I think what's happened is it's actually gone the opposite way, to be honest, day to day. If Puka watches more than his game, if he watches like we watch when we're trying to watch all the games, I think it's an overriding issue where the referees are taking a beat to say, do I want to call this? Do I want to affect the game this way? Did I see what I think I saw? And you know what? I'll be honest. I think there's more up here in the ear of those officials than we ever believe, right? I think these officials are being communicated with instant replay that says, no, call it, line judge 6, call it, and they're like, bang, and then they throw it. And that, let's go right back to and I think we do need to talk about some of the other stuff that's happened in the league, but that's the Lions game. Like, we all saw on national television when there was one game of consequence for Packer Nation where there were 6 officials standing along and discussing what not a word was being said. Not a verbal word from you and I, if we're the officials, was being said because everything was being fed through them. Now, granted, Dilly, I've never heard of the rule. I've never seen the rule, but it's a rule. Look it up. And Lions fan, come on. They took their time. They got it right. Please, you've had plenty of years of losing. Lose in a way that matters positively. The team has sucked, by the way, for the last 3 weeks, for the better part of 3 weeks. Come on. You're better than... No, you're not better than that, Lions fan. You're actually not better than that. Please act better.
You bring up the most important part is, can we have transparency on exactly when New York starts talking in these officials' ears and exactly what the goal is sometimes? Because on that play, on the Detroit play, what it appeared to be was, how can we finagle this? Because it's offensive pass interference, it became, let's finagle this to try to get to the end of the game. And what strikes a chord there is the Packers' interception by Evan Williams in Lambeau against the Bears. I think what they were negotiating with New York and on instant replay and all that, they're like, man, we got this so wrong. Like, how can we hurt both teams a little bit? How can we not try to be in on just make the right call? You never saw the ball hit the ground. So you can't call that. And I know I want to get on board with, know the rules. Helmet to helmet is helmet to helmet. You had 10 years to bitch about it. But it's the same thing with catches in the NFL. They're still not very clear on it. And, I saw one, and I feel like the commentators, we need a little clarification. Who's weighing in on the commentators? Do they have a earpiece to New York? Is it the stooge who sits with them and he has an earpiece to New York, or a producer, and they're telling them when to, some of the announcers are maybe immune to this, but they'll just clearly call a play wrong while they're showing a review. I think it was a Lions game again. I feel like it was a tight end where the ball is on the ground, touching the ground before he has control. And they're like, oh, yep, there's his hand underneath it. It's like his hand is like underneath the tip of the ball, maybe. Like they act like it's so clear that maybe their monitors are so small they can't really see, so they just say whatever a producer tells them in the ear. But it's amazing sometimes that what they're saying does not match what you can see on TV, but somehow it matches the call that ends up being made. I don't know. It gets hard
your
to
point
watch.
with I agree, and it brings questions. It brings up questions that shouldn't have to be asked if they do this correctly and they do it timely and they do it with transparency. Because here's the deal: exactly what you said about the Evan Williams play was exactly what happened in the end of the Lions game. Those officials screwed up because they allowed the play to go on, and now the Lions scored. Now and they're having communications on. They're like, what the fuck are we gonna do now? Because technically the Lions just scored the winning touchdown after we had it cleared up that they weren't gonna score the winning touchdown because of the pass interference. So either we manufacture some verbiage that makes sense and we end this game. Basically, that official was like, pass. The call on the field was a touchdown because we didn't blow the whistle. Regardless of that, there was offensive pass interference on number 14, which is not reviewable. The game's over, so shut your mouths and get off the field. That's essentially what he said without saying shut your mouths, get off the field. That's what he said. But don't ask questions because we are the NFL. I am the official with the white hat. I talked to the people in New York, so we are all aligned. So we have no holes, and we do not have to talk about it to anyone but ourselves. So this is the ruling, and get on with your life. AKA, I don't know if you remember 13 years ago in that same stadium, there was a little bit of a questionable call when it was a catch or not a catch with some replacement officials.
That was in Seattle.
Okay, so same difference.
Same quarterback for the opposing team.
Yeah. So
Roger,
I mean, it's the same thing, but it's like, it's a touchdown, incomplete, touchdown, incomplete. Not sure who has it, but we're going that way.
These guys might as well be replacement officials at this point. I mean, that brings you to a greater point of how can you not have, why do we have dentists and lawyers and doctors out there? Why don't we have NFL officials that are NFL officials first and foremost? Is that hard?
Hey, can I ask you a question? I'm going to move to another game. And I one in particular, and probably not one that you would think to talk about because it basically meant nothing but draft order. Falcons versus Cardinals. And I'll pose a question here. How are the Falcons so bad? I mean, seriously, how are they? They have one of the best defenses in the league. I've got an answer to it. I'm going to answer my own question, but I want to hear your take.
Well, in past years, you could say it's Arthur Smith because he was a fucking bonehead, and they, for whatever reason, don't like utilizing Bijan Robinson as much as they possibly could. I mean, I guess my real answer would be it has to be coach, although it's a new coach this year. I think it's organizational. I think they step all over themselves and they make bad calls. I mean, I understand what people, when they don't have their own ideas or their own principles, they try to copy somebody else's program. And drafting Amir Penix Well, in a empty vacuum, that might have been the right call. But the scenario that works for the Green Bay Packers, where you draft a guy before you need him, that works if you have a all-time Hall of Fame talent that's going to fend off the other first-round quarterback for very reasonably 2 to 3 years, 1 year for sure. You can't do it. And I mean, the Vikings kind of did it last year, although I don't think they were doing it on purpose with Darnold and JJ McCarthy. But the Falcons, for lack of, out of fear and organizational stupidity, they brought in a very high paid veteran Kirk Cousins, who he's not a lock as a Hall of Famer. He's not a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He's been pretty good. He's pretty old. And they just signed him to $1 billion and then immediately drafted another quarterback. And then I think, because when you see Cousins last year, like, he's been okay at times and he was good for a bit last year. Then he completely sucked. I believe he had a shoulder injury that they kind of stayed hush-hush on. And so they just flushed that year. So I blame it on really the whole organization and bad leadership, because they make blunders like that all the time. They did this year. They drafted a pass rusher. Let's trade up and draft another pass rusher. That'll fix everything. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I'll agree with the organizational dysfunction. True. But I looked and I watched some of that game because that was like the only game that was being played for whatever reason. They have Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Pitts at tight end, a very good defense. How are they that bad? And they looked dangerous. In a good Kirk Cousins, I think you hit it. I do think that the organizational dysfunction creates questions. And in the NFL, a locker room does control a lot of what is on the field, because there's a belief or there isn't a belief. So I think a lot in Atlanta is there's not a lot of belief. But boy, oh boy, are they a talented team with a great defense and some offensive talent. If you plug in, hey, Malik, maybe you got a future in Atlanta. I don't know. I mean, you're playing who, and that goes to the other point is who's going to be a quarterback for the Green Bay Packers this coming weekend, Saturday night? Is Malik even healthy enough? I don't know. That's another question I would like to touch on. Can we touch on Chiefs quarterbacks? If you're the third string quarterback for the Chiefs right now, and Andy Reid is knocking on your door, right, on the quarterback's door, and being like, hey, by the way, you're our starting quarterback. Back-to-back weeks, the starting quarterbacks have gone down with ACLs. Are you being like, isn't Trent Dilfer available? I'll hold the clip.
Chris Oladokun, I don't know if that's how you say it or not. He's been around, and by around, I mean South Dakota State. I don't know what you're thinking if you're the Chiefs right now. I think what you're thinking is, I'm going to look at the box score quick, here's what I'm wondering. Why is a guy, and maybe he was fucking hurt, which I don't think he was. No, Brashard Smith, a rookie, fast, elusive running back. Why are they still pounding ahead with Kareem Hunt? And, at least feel like you want to be out there with some guys that are fighting for jobs, trying to show something. That's what I would want if I was Chris Ogonkadu, or whatever the hell his name is. I'd want to say, you know what? Give me some young studs. I mean, we're out here. I know they had some injuries, but Juju Smith, Marquise Brown, Travis Kelce, these guys have never played on a fucking give up with 3 weeks left team. Evaluate. Get some other linemen in there. Hell, good organizations will do that and build off it. The Chiefs have done that before. I know there's some limitations to what you can do, but Brashard Smith is the big example of a guy who could be super talented. Like, why won't you get him the ball 15, 20 times? When you're clearly flushing the season, you're getting your ass kicked by the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, almost the worst team in the league, right? And I'll be honest. So give me a take on the Jaguars Broncos game. Are the Broncos now proven frauds? I mean, are we,
Finally,
yeah, right?
I've been saying it for 6 weeks on the show. They're proven fraudulently inconsistent in the mold of, sorry Bears fan, we're ragging on you a lot. A little bit like the Bears. Like, how many miraculous comebacks can you have? And I said this not on the audible angle, which would have been a cooler clip that we could have had our video guy chop up and put out as a short for us. But Jacksonville might be the best team in the AFC to me because they're balanced. They don't have, it depends on how far back in the season you go. They have a couple of stinkers in there, but, they are running the ball a bit. They're passing the ball a bit, and they're winning. And I think they're better than, hot take. They're better than Denver. They went on the road to Denver and manhandled them. I'm trying to there we go. Bring it up. Bring up their schedule. So I think Jacksonville is good. I think Denver is going to be, it always gets to the point where you have to clarify things. Like, the Bears are a good team. The Broncos are a good team. And they have a chance to be great. In the NFL right now, there's not a ton of teams that are clearly above and beyond other teams. I think the Seahawks, again, easy. They're the number 1 seed right now. But they got to, I don't think anybody's, until they win it all, which I don't think they will, they got a Sam Darnold has to prove it problem. And we'll see how things end up. But I think Jacksonville's good. And this one is painful to say because I watched the game and I still think they stunk for a while in this game. But I think the Eagles have as much of a chance as anybody to win some games in the NFC playoffs, and partially because they
Play no one.
destroyed the Raiders. Raiders, epically bad team. They beat up on the Commanders, epically bad team. Now they got a game against the Bills that won't really matter to them, and then they have the Commanders again, which will either be a bye or a nearby. Like, they have a schedule that sets up to get things right. The Bills aren't great on defense, so I doubt they're going to, I think their offense could be on track right in time for the playoffs. They have the pieces, and I think they're just as good as the top of the NFC as far as the standings go.
Can I mention to you, can I just go a little bit further on the Bears are a good team and the Broncos are a good team? Can I mention why they're a good team? The NFL is built to be an every other year type of thing. Because when the Bears stink last year, and they were a non-existent question last year. So what happens to their schedule the next year? It's a light schedule. So you're telling me that they're a good team because of who they played and because of their record. They played 2 games against us head-to-head. They won 1 and lost 1. We're a team decimated by injury. The Broncos questionably should have lost that game to the Packers the week before. Now, maybe we in Packer Nation believe our team is a Super Bowl team. I'm here to tell you this year probably isn't our year. And I don't know if that same sentiment comes out of my mouth, Dilly, 3 weeks ago. And the reason that I say that is because if we beat the Broncos, if we beat the Bears again, if Micah Parsons doesn't get hurt, if Evan Williams doesn't get hurt, if our right tackle doesn't get hurt, it's a whole different story. But part of winning the Super Bowl is you've got to be healthy at the key positions, and we're not. Can we get healthy by the playoffs? Potentially. Maybe. But maybe this isn't our year. And maybe, I don't think it's the Broncos here. Yeah, their seeding will give them a little bit of help. But is it really the Bears team? Because if the Bears go into Los Angeles, are they going to win that game? Because LA doesn't play a 3-point game, right? They score 35 or better. against
Well,
whoever they.
yeah, I wouldn't say, I don't think it's the Bears' year. We got a couple weeks left. I think the Bears proved something by beating Philly. I kind of stuck by this. I think it was the first Packer Bear game preview that I didn't think that I would feel that much differently, and I don't feel that much differently now. We're a couple weeks past that. I don't feel that much differently at all about the Bears. I don't feel better about the Bears, but the Bears are better than they have been. And I don't consider them. I think the Eagles, the Rams, and the Seahawks are the teams from the NFC that have the best chance. Oh, guess what? They're the top seeds. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't say the Eagles. In any case,
You did.
I
You
think,
said the Eagles. I'll fact check it.
yeah,
You said
the Seahawks, Eagles, and Rams are the best teams that set up the best for success right now in the postseason. A little
Yeah.
more on Seattle. They're not running the ball well enough, consistently enough, and that can be a problem. And Darnold, they've had some games where he's tried to throw it away, and the opponent just wasn't good enough to finish him off. But the I guess maybe the 49ers will change my mind. I think the NFC is still pretty wide open, and I think without Micah Parsons, if everybody else is relatively healthy, especially we really glossed over Zach Tom. If Zach Tom is back healthy, I think the Pack and Love, I think you're right. I think under low key, because we play Saturday again, we don't get an extra day. Low key, who the fuck is our practice squad quarterback? Is it still Clayton Tune?
Exactly. It is Clayton Tune, and he hasn't played but a nothing. I mean, he gets practice reps, but I just don't know. I mean, the Ravens are not a good football team, and they're a really not a good football team when they don't have Lamar, and it looks like that helped us out a little bit in the second half with Lamar going down with a back injury. Is there a chance he plays? Sure. Is there a good chance he plays? Probably not. I don't think he was right to begin with, but he looked pretty good in the first half. And they took the other fraudulent team in the league, New England, and they had him on the ropes. But lucky you, New England, you don't have to face Lamar Ravens. Lucky you, Green Bay, maybe you don't have to play a Lamar-led Ravens. But their defense is the real deal. They've been playing poorly this year, but they've got good talent on that side of the football. I don't know, man. I just am not. I mean, next episode, I think we're going to go into pregame. I think we're gonna kind of view this next game against the Ravens a little bit more in depth. But boy, I just don't know. We've got him at Lambeau. That helps. So I guess I'll save the rest for.
You bring up a good point. Let's put a wrap on this one. Desperate need for bathroom breaks can be fulfilled, and then we'll come back and get a little more into the Packers week ahead, and then just a little bit more on where we see the playoffs shaking out. I know in the production meeting you mentioned the playoffs, or maybe it was earlier. Hard to keep track after 75 minutes. The playoffs are damn near set on both sides. There's not a ton of intrigue. The little who wins the division. There's some seeding issues, and the Lions could maybe fight their way back into it. There's limited things to talk about, but let's wrap it up here and then come back in a bit.
Peace.
Later.